7. The plan for the New Age. It is interesting to note that 1975, the year that Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future came out, was a banner year for the new religious consciousness. This was the year which the deceased occultist Alice Bailey, 1880 to 1949, one of the major builders of the present-day New Age movement and an avowed enemy of Orthodox Christianity, had designated for her disciples to publicly disseminate hitherto secret teachings to all available media. During that year, David Spangler and a host of other New Age spokesmen and organizations began their public work. The goals of today's New Age movement were mapped out well in advance in the writings of occultist and medium Helen Blavatsky, who founded the Theosophical Society in 1875-49, and later by Alice Bailey, Nicholas Roerich, author of the Agni Yoga writings, Teilhard de Chardin, the evolutionary thinker and paleontologist mentioned in Chapter 2 above, and H. G. Wells. In the words of Teilhard, these goals include a convergence of religions in tandem with a confluence of political and economic forces toward world government. 50 Today, some New Age circles speak of the plan for a new world order, which would include a universal credit system, a universal tax, a global police force, and an international authority that would control the world's food supply and transportation systems. In this utopian scheme, wars, disease, hunger, pollution, and poverty will end. All forms of discrimination will cease, and people's allegiance to tribe or nation will be replaced by a planetary consciousness. According to some of the major architects of the New Age movement, this plan can be traced back to the fall of Lucifer and his angels from heaven. Alice Bailey wrote that the revolt of the angels against God was part of the divine plan of evolution, for by it, the fallen angels descended from their sinless and free state of existence in order to develop full divine awareness on earth. 51 In this total reversal of Christian theology, the fall of man was really an ascent to knowledge, for by it man's eyes were opened to good and evil. 52 Thus, wrote Helen Blavatsky, it is but natural to view Satan, the serpent of Genesis, as the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. For it is he who was the harbinger of light, bright radiant Lucifer, who opened the eyes of the automaton created by Jehovah. Indeed, mankind was taught wisdom and the hidden knowledge by the fallen angel. 53 As man's benefactor, Lucifer continues to assist man's evolution. In the words of David Spangler, a disciple of the writings of Blavatsky and Bailey, Lucifer is the angel of man's evolution. 54 Within New Age esoteric societies it is taught that, for the furtherance of the plan, mass planetary initiations will occur. According to Benjamin Cream, another follower of Blavatsky and Bailey, revitalized Christian churches and Masonic lodges will be used for the purpose of giving these initiations. And as we have seen, David Spangler has stated that these initiations will be Luciferic at their esoteric core, reiterating the teachings of Alice Bailey, who channeled them from a discarnate entity called Chul. Cool, Spangler writes, Lucifer works within each of us to bring us to wholeness. As we move into the New Age, each of us is brought to that point which I term the Luciferic initiation. Lucifer comes to give us the final Luciferic initiations that many people in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an initiation into the New Age. 55 As the plan approaches fulfillment, the one-world religion acquires its final shape. The day is dawning, wrote Alice Bailey, when all religions will be regarded as emanating from one great spiritual source, all will be seen as unitedly providing the one route out, of which the universal world religion will inevitably emerge. 56 Helen Blavatsky said that this universal religion was the religion of the ancients, the memory of which was the origin of the satanic myth of Christians. The religion of the ancients, Blavatsky wrote, is the religion of the future. 57. The plan reaches its apotheosis with the coming of the new age Messiah, the so-called Messiah the Christ. David Spangler speaks in anticipation of this event, from the depths of the race a call is rising for the emergence of a savior, an avatar, a father figure, who can be for the race what the ancient priest-kings were in the dawn of human history. 58 According to Alice Bailey, angels will appear with this false Christ in order to convince people that they should follow him. Thus, the final stage of the New Age reversal of Christianity will be the worship of the Antichrist, whose coming is after the power of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. 2 Thess 2:9. It should be pointed out that many New Agers today would not be aware of, much less subscribe to, all the points of the plan. As we have seen, the movement incorporates a diverse array of groups, ideas and practices. If it can be called a conspiracy, this is certainly not because all New Agers are working together secretly, on an organizational level, toward fulfillment of the plan. Ultimately, the plan is being orchestrated not on a human but on a demonic level. And the architects of the New Age movement are, to a large degree, only mouthpieces of ideas that are not their own. 8 Globalism. The New Age movement is only the spiritual side of a much broader movement which has mushroomed in the decades since Fr. Seraphim's death. This is the multifaceted movement toward globalism, which is very much in the interest of those whose goals may not be religious at all. In recent years, international investment bankers and corporations have made enormous strides toward their goal of a hegemony of world finance and a global economic system. In 1980, the following warning was issued by Admiral Charles Ward, a former member of the Elite Council on Foreign Relations, which includes major government figures, heads of multinational corporations, and representatives of the largest banking firms in the world. The most powerful cliques in these elitist groups have an objective in common. They want to bring about the surrender of the sovereignty and the national independence of the United States. A second clique of international members in the CFR comprises the Wall Street international bankers and their key agents. Primarily, they want the world banking monopoly from whatever power ends up in the control of global government. 59 More recently, in 1993, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, Lejelb, announced on television, "You had me on before to talk about the New World Order. I talk about it all the time. It's one world now, willing or not, ready or not, we are all involved. The competition is about who will establish the first one-world system of government that has ever existed in the Society of Nations. It is control over each of us as individuals and over all of us together as a community." 60. This vision of the future has been shaping the foreign policy of many governments, not least that of the United States. A clear declaration of the globalist agenda was made in 1992 by Strobe Talbot, longtime personal friend of President Bill Clinton, Deputy Secretary of State during the Clinton administration, and one of the chief architects of the U.S.-led military intervention in the Balkans. Nationhood as we know it will be obsolete. All states will recognize a single, global authority. In Talbot's view, nations are nothing more than social arrangements, no matter how permanent and sacred they may seem at any one time. In fact, they are all artificial and temporary. It has taken the events in our own wondrous and terrible 20th century to clinch the case for world government. 61. With the establishment and expansion of the European Union, the creation of the euro currency, the advances toward a cashless society, the control of former Eastern Bloc countries by Western financial interests, the formation of an international criminal tribunal by the United Nations, and the consolidation of state armies as peacekeeping forces under the United Nations and NATO, we see what appear to be the forerunners of such a one-world system. Some of these developments are not necessarily evil in themselves. Taken together, however, they help to set up a global apparatus which can make way for the rising religion of the future. Such was the expectation of Alice Bailey, who in the 1940s wrote, "The expressed aims and efforts of the United Nations will be eventually brought to fruition, and a new Church of God, gathered out of all religions and spiritual groups, will unitedly bring to an end the great heresy of separateness." 62. Robert Mueller, former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, expressed the same belief on the 50th anniversary of the United Nations in 1995. At the beginning, the United Nations was only a hope. Today it is a political reality. Tomorrow it will be the world's religion. 63. A proponent of the teaching of both Alice Bailey and Teilhard de Chardin, Mueller says that mankind's goal should be to see the religions globalize themselves urgently in order to give us a universal, cosmic meaning of life on earth and give birth to the first global, cosmic, universal civilization. 64. Today, those with a globalist agenda in the political and financial sectors work alongside globalists in the religious sector, particularly with interfaith organizations such as the United Religions Initiative. Founded as a religious counterpart to the United Nations, the Temple of Understanding, an official consultant of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, and the Council for a Parliament of the World's Religions, a revival of the World's Parliament of Religions, mentioned in Chapter 2 above, which first convened in Chicago in 1893. 65. Although interfaith organizations usually affirm that their only aim is to promote understanding and dialogue among religions, it is apparent that in some cases this aim is only a first step in a larger program, the convergence of religions in the New Age. As William Swing, Episcopal Bishop of California and founder/director of the United Religions Initiative, expressed it in his book The Coming United Religions, the time comes when common language and a common purpose for all religions and spiritual movements must be discerned and agreed upon. Merely respecting and understanding other religions is not enough. 66. Bishop Swing imagines all the world's religions as paths up a mountain, converging from below on a single point, a unity that transcends the world. At the top of the mountain, the esoteric believers from each faith would intuit that they were ultimately in unity with people from other religions because all come together at the apex, in the divine. Everyone below the line would be identified as exoteric. 67. Like Blavatsky, Bailey and Teilhard before him, Bishop Swing looks to this convergence of religions with messianic expectancy. In his opening address to the 1997 Summit Conference of the United Religions Initiative, he proclaimed, "If you have come here because a spirit of colossal energy is being born in the loins of the earth, then come here and be a midwife. Assist, in awe, at the birth of new hope,